Great. So we've got three people are going to present or speak today. So we've got Daniel Sutherland, who, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's from the emergency planning group at their team at Hackney Council. He's going to speak briefly about the need for some cold spaces over the hot weather in the summer. We're then going to go to Joanna Brunt, who is from Hackney Carers, who's kindly agreed to come along and talk about the work that they do. And then we have got Dan Drilsmer Milgram from the GLA, who's going to come and talk about the cost of living hub, I believe, at the GLA, and perhaps a bit of an update on the wider work they're doing around cost of living. That would be fantastic. So I'm going to pass on to Daniel Sutherland from the Emergency Planning Group. So please take it away.
Good afternoon all. My name is Danny, as you heard, from emergency planning team in Hackney, and we usually deal with responses to incidents that happen, flooding, fires in buildings and things like that. But last year, with the heat wave, because we didn't really have anything prepared, we weren't expecting the heat to be as hot and last as long as it did. My team ended up getting involved, opening the Borough Emergency Control Centre and kind of trying to coordinate facilities and make sure everybody was ready. For instance, we had to put extra security around parks to stop people barbecuing and stop people jumping in the river and stuff like that. So last year, one of the things that came through was from the mayor actually was asking about the GLA run a cold spaces website, similar to the warm spaces, but they kind of work a different way, and there's not really any funding for it. The problem we have is, and this links in with the GLA and our public health guys on board, is that there's often a threat to life. There's disruption of services, transport disruption, pressure on local hospitals, and pressure on infrastructure. Due to this hot weather, especially when it lasts and it goes through the night, and it's more than a few days, and it affects especially rough sleepers and people like that. So the only thing, my presentation is pretty quick. Basically, all I'm asking is anyone who knows volunteer spaces that already have spaces available, if you are willing to add yourselves to the GLA website, which I'm going to put a link to in the chat, could you possibly add yourselves to that? It tells you the criteria, and it tells you what kind of the ask is. It's not really much. It's just that people get some respite when they're walking to the shops, when they're walking back from the shop. If it gets too hot, if they can just stick their heads in and sit down, maybe get some water, and just get some rest from the heat. If you have a space available, or if you know of groups that do have the spaces available, please add yourselves to the website so that we know where they are. We can tell people where they are. And so that we don't get messages from the mayor again asking why there are only two in Hackney. One that we thought was in Hackney was literally on the border of Newington Green, so it was actually in Islington, and like loads of other boroughs have them. You can see when you look on the website. I will drop the links in the website. If you Google GLA cool spaces, I'm sure our GLA guys know of this place as well. But yeah, if you could do that, thank you. That's all from me.
Great, thanks, Danny. I think Marcelo has got a question in the chat about whether you're promoting this to local businesses as well.
We are kind of, basically, we just want, at the moment, we're just going out to people and going, look, if you've got a space, can you please add it? Because we don't want it to end up being an emergency at the last minute like it was last time. The GLA stuff, I'm not sure who it goes out to. I have tried to contact our business regen team today to see if we can get out through one of their forums. Yeah, I mean it's open to all. So yeah, I have done today with that team, but I haven't had a response as of yet. So I don't think.
Great, thanks, Danny. Has anyone else got any other questions? Or we'll move on. Great, and I can put out a message in the newsletter as well, Danny, around.
Thank you. Yeah.
For,
literally just if they have a space and it's open already, if they can do it, please ask them. Thank you.
Will do. Thanks, Danny. We're going to move on to Joanna from Hackney Carers, who I'm just checking I can still see on the call.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, brilliant.
Am I able to put my presentation up? Yes, I think I can.
You are, yeah. It's if you go down to the bottom, it's the little box with an arrow in it, and present now, and you should be able to do it via that button.
Oh.
Or you can send it to me, and I can present if you want.
Yeah, it's saying. I think I sent it to you earlier in the day, John.
You did. Let me just dig it out.
Would you mind? Because it's not coming up.
Right, I've got them. Bear with me one moment.
Thank you. Thanks very much, John. Yeah, hi everyone. I work for City and Hackney Carer Centre, and I'm just going to talk you through our range of our services and how you might be able to refer people to us if you are aware of any carers that you're working with. Yeah, so if you could flick on, John. First of all, I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew the difference between an informal carer and a paid carer, because we get loads of calls every day from people who want a professional carer for their mum or dad or whoever, and we're always having to explain, well, actually, we support informal or unpaid carers, and so they are somebody who is providing care in an unpaid capacity. Even if they're claiming carer's allowance, they are still considered an unpaid carer. So, and then people who are in a contract to deliver care to somebody, we call them professional carers. So yeah, talking about informal carers today. And we have a range of services. This is a list of them, and I've got a slide on each one. So perhaps we'll move on to look at the advice and information service. Oh yeah, first of all, our eligibility criteria. So if a carer wants to register with us, they have to be an unpaid carer, they have to be living in Hackney or the City of London, or be caring for somebody who lives in Hackney or the City of London. So we can be supporting people living in Liverpool if the person they care for is in Hackney or the City of London. So that's important to say. They have to be aged 16 years and upwards, and yeah, willing to complete our registration form, which isn't too difficult. Thank you. So our information advice service, it's our most popular service, and I suppose this is where we tie in with poverty reduction work, because we do a lot of benefit checks and income maximisation work with unpaid carers and the person that they care for. So that's important. We can support both those people in that caring relationship, and indeed whole families. So it's free. There's face-to-face advice. We have 2 advisors who work out of Hackney Service Centre on Mondays and Fridays, and that's where they do their face-to-face appointments. But we also do quite a lot of telephone work. We do advice over Teams and Zoom as well. And on Wednesdays we have an advice line, so carers can call up with any kind of issue they might have and speak directly to one of our advisors. But yeah, here's a list of the main areas of work. So we do a lot of, as I said, benefits checks, helping apply for DLA, PIP, and attendance allowance for the people being cared for. And we will coach carers to complete the forms, or we might do it for them and with them, depending on, how confident they feel with form filling. We will liaise with social services around care packages, but we prefer to leave that to our partner organisation, Carers First, who I'm going to talk about at the end of my presentation. We help with transport, housing, and we do a lot of work on helping carers access individual grants. Because of the cost of living crisis, that's been a growth area in our work, and we've had some Samaritans grants that we've been giving out, and we can apply to the Carers Trust, who are a national charity that we're a network partner of, and we can apply to them for individual grants for carers who are in hardship. And note there, we don't offer formal advocacy support, but we do help with complaints. Okay, thanks. We have a counselling service. So this is another popular service. As I'm sure you can imagine, when somebody first realises they're a carer, they might have been thrust into the role with very little preparation. They might be struggling to come to terms with a life-changing diagnosis for a loved one. They might be struggling to cope themselves with the impact of caring on their life, juggling work and care. These are people who are very, very busy people and hold a lot of responsibility in their day-to-day lives. So we have a counselling service for those who want to seek some emotional support and talk to somebody on a regular basis. So that's about our service there. It is all delivered over Zoom. We started doing that during the pandemic, and we haven't stopped because it's been so successful in terms of engagement with carers. And many carers say they wouldn't be able to attend counselling if it wasn't delivered over Zoom, just because maybe they can't leave the person they care for, or maybe they can't leave them for very long. So travelling to and from an appointment would be quite difficult for them. So we're continuing to deliver it that way. Thank you. We also offer coaching. You could call it life coaching, but this is for carers who are perhaps wanting to move on from caring, or perhaps have something going on in their life that they don't require emotional support with, but they want to work with somebody to kind of resolve that issue. And so we will offer some one-to-one coaching, and we also have some online groups and workshops that run. Thank you. We have a service called the Listening Ear Service. So this is more casual than counselling. Our volunteers use elements of counselling skills, however, but it's really around carers who maybe don't want to talk to somebody on a weekly basis, don't need some therapeutic input, but do want somebody to talk to and offload to from time to time. And so the sessions are really a bit more ad hoc, and carers can pick and choose when they have their listening ear sessions. And they can have 6 sessions over 6 months. Thank you. We have a young adult carer support service. As it says, these are young adult carers are aged between 16 and 25 years. And we're always very keen to identify new young adult carers to use our service, because they are quite a difficult group of carers to engage with and identify. So they don't have to be the person who's delivering the most care in the house. It could be a sibling who has perhaps a brother or a sister who has disability. It could be somebody who's grandparents. They do caring tasks from time to time, but they're not the primary carer. So if you know of anyone who might kind of meet this criteria, please do get in touch, because it's a really great service. have a weekly youth group that meets at Young Hackney in Dalston on a Wednesday evening, do some really nice trips and activities. A group of us went play pigeon shooting on Sunday, the hottest day of the year. It was quite tough, but everyone had a really good time. And that was something that the young people identified they wanted to do, something that they'd never done before, maybe wouldn't get the opportunity to do unless it was funded by our service. So yeah, there's some good stuff happening, and there's also one-to-one casework and advocacy as well. So this is a bit more information, a bit of a fuller list of the services that the young adult carer service offer. I think this is going to get sent to everyone, isn't it, John? So I won't take you through the full list. You'll get that. Thank you. And we also run some wellbeing sessions for carers. So here we've got our list of current activities. We're doing chair yoga, strength building class, which is online for those carers who can't leave the home. And that's really important because caring can be a very physical job, and it's important for carers to look after their physical health and their, keep their muscle tone up and everything, to enable them to continue doing that. We have a monthly coffee morning, so that's both online and in person. When it's in person, it's at the Salvation Army on Mare Street. And at the moment, we have some funding through the People and Places Fund, and we are running monthly wellbeing and information days at Kingsmead Community Centre. And we have a relationship with the London Buddhist Centre, so we refer carers onto them for carer retreat days whenever they're happening. And I've just got a link at the bottom there. On our website, we have a calendar which tells you what we're running it on any week or month of the year, so carers can go and have a look at that and sign up for things. Thanks. Yeah, and lastly, we do run some training and information sessions. So these are all co-produced with carers. We ask them what they want to learn about or to have more information about, and then we go and find the facilitators who can run workshops and information sessions. And these are probably the most popular ones that come up here. They're run on an ad hoc basis, but yet usually we have one or two happening each month. Thank you. So here's our contact details. If you want to email us, it's our general email address, info@Hackney Carers, or you can make a referral. We have some quite short referral forms on our website for the different services. And we also have a registration form, so carers can directly fill in the registration form. It's an online form that will then get sent to us. Whoops. And we can then make contact with the carer. I think I just had a couple, I just wanted to talk about carers first, John. There's a couple of slides at the end of the presentation there about Carers First, who are the other charity operating in Hackney and supporting carers. And whilst the work we do can be similar, we try not to duplicate the work that we're doing, and we work in partnership. And I don't know if you're able to bring it up, John, the slide on Carers First. Don't want to misrepresent their services.
I think it was showing for me. I don't know if it's.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay. Well, I'll just talk about what they do then. But they are, as I say, that they have a contract with the London Borough of Hackney to identify and support unpaid carers. And so they are the best organisation to talk to if a carer wants a carer's assessment, if the person being cared for needs some input from from adult social care, perhaps. And some of the things that they offer that we don't are carers groups. So they have a monthly group for carers of people with dementia, which happens at the end of the month, I think, on a Wednesday. And they also work with St Joseph's Hospice to run a group for carers that happens, I think, on the second Wednesday of the month. They also do advocacy work for carers, which we don't. And they have a lot of online services as well that carers can access. And they do also do casework. So yeah, that's in a nutshell, carer services in Hackney. Does anyone have any questions?
Jonathan, did you want to come in?
Hi, yeah, it's not a question as such, but in talking about carers, it reminded me that there's a council tax carers disregard. So certain people can would be able to get 25% off their council tax bill if they have a carer looking after them, or they're caring within the home. There's different categories. There's one for employed carers, but they have to be earning less than £44 a week and caring for 24 hours per week. And then the other category is for members of a family who aren't the spouse or the parent of a child. And for that one, if they're providing care for 35 hours a week, the discount may apply. So I just wanted to flag that up in case there's, I mean, it is one of those kind of discounts that is underclaimed. And I know that Zoe's team will be aware of it. So hopefully the message will get out there. But I thought it was a good point to bring up at that point.
Yeah, thank you. I only just heard about that this week, actually, but I don't know if I mentioned it to our advisors, and I think they were saying that they often, the people that we see, the carers that we see, are on housing benefits, on other welfare benefits, so they're already eligible for the council tax reduction.
Well, what should happen is that people should get discounts first, and then if there's an application for council tax reduction, that's made after the discount. It might make little or no difference, I suppose, in the overall amount that somebody pays, but we would want to make sure that people are charged the correct amount within council tax legislation, and then if they apply for reductions such as council tax reduction, then there's further help that's available. But it's one of the easiest categories of discount to qualify for.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you. Somebody sent it round to us earlier in the week. So yeah, it's of interest, and we're going to look at that and see if we need to apply it, when we're working with more carers. So thank you.
Great.
Maybe I can just come in there really quickly, because I think that was me who sent it round earlier in the week. Sorry, Neil and Dan, to jump in. So yeah, there's what we're trying to work out is whether we can get any data sharing in place so that we can automatically work out who are the people who would qualify, because it's not only the people doing the caring, but often I imagine the people your carers are caring for will also be eligible for the severe mental impairment disregard as well. So this is separate to, and sometimes on top of, the council tax reduction.
Okay.
So it can make, and it can be backdated, so it can mean quite a big financial impact for the for your service users. So great to just advertise it in the short term, but we are looking to see if there's a way that we can use all of the data from your service and from our service, get all the data sharing responsibly in place, and then actually just go out to the people who are eligible and help them.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, sounds good. I also had flagged up to me by a carer this week the discounted travel on buses and trams in London, which I hadn't come across before. But looking at it, it's if you're on certain benefits, you're entitled to 50% off bus travel. Yeah, been kind of working with carers for 10 years and have not come across that discount card. So we're going to be heavily promoting that as well.
Brilliant. Dan, did you want to come in?
Yeah, I did. It was really just hi, this is Dan from the Greater London Authority. I really just wanted to ask about some of the advice that you offer. I saw that I think you said you had 2 advisors who operate, and just if there's, I don't know, sort of what your experience has been in terms of being able to access them, any sort of recruitment challenges you face in that regard, or an ability to sort of, access training or support for people who might be interested in getting trained up in that area.
Yeah, in advice and guidance. Yeah. We did have trouble recruiting, actually. It's a couple of years ago now, but we ended up recruiting people who we then trained ourselves, so really sort of grown into the role. But yeah, I don't think the salaries are that competitive. Yeah, in terms of training, we'd certainly appreciate more training. There is some in the way of free training. I know that the DWP quite often offer sessions on the various benefits that we can access. And we use the Child Poverty Action Group quite a bit for training. Their training is really, really good standard. But yeah, that's probably as far as it goes for training. So yeah, we always try and build in a budget into our each year so that we can keep up to speed, because things are changing all the time, aren't they, in terms of welfare benefits.
Presumably that's more at the kind of specialist / kind of technical end of things, I suppose, sort of quite
well, yeah. So well, we call it generalist advice, actually, but it's predominantly around accessing welfare benefits and those for people with disabilities, like PIP, DLA, attendance allowance, carers allowance, a lot of universal credit work. And the people that we support, our advisors speak a range of community languages. So we do tend to see people for whom English is not their first language. And so we provide quite a lot of intensive support to those people, because they're unable to kind of complete the forms themselves and like read the letters that they're getting and that sort of thing. Actually, on that note, I didn't mention it in my presentation that we have an arrangement with Tower Hamlets Carer Centre. We have a support service around appeals. So if somebody's turned down, or the person they care for is turned down for a benefit, then we can help them do the mandatory reconsideration. And if that's also, turned down, they're not awarded what they think they should be entitled to, we can then support them through the tribunal process. And Tower Hamlets Carer Centre help us with that.
Brilliant, thanks, Joanna. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Nope. If not, oh, Jenny, do you want to come in?
Yeah, I was just to Dan's question, I was just going to point out that we do have a couple of other advice providers on the line. So if that question was kind of a broad one for all of our advice providers, we do have, I think, Fiona from the Citizens Advice Bureau and Tracy from Shelter. But we could maybe come to that if that's something that I know you have a slot. So maybe, if you've got an ask, just to let you know that we do have some additional advice network members here too. Thanks.
Brilliant. In which case, thank you, Joanna. That was really great presentation, and amazing wide range of services you've got, and really good, obviously, collaboration with Carers First as well. It's really good to see that collaboration in the voluntary sector. So we are going to move on to Dan, who's kindly joined us from the GLA, to talk about the cost of living hub and the broader support available. I think so. Yeah, Dan, please take it away. Do you want me to just share my screen? Is that easier? With your slides?
Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can work it out, and if not, I'm going to ask for your help. It's not showing me the window that I want to be able to share, so I might be asking for your help, John.
No worries, no worries.
And yeah, I just sort of I mentioned in the chat that I'm on my personal earphones today, which sometimes for some reason they just don't work very well with this Surface Pro, and I end up sounding like a Dalek. So if that does happen, it usually doesn't last too long, but let me know and I'll see if there's anything I can do in terms of the settings. John, I think you asked me to sort of talk about the cost of living hub and sort of wider approaches. I'll probably turn that around and sort of talk about the approach more generally and maybe mention the hub briefly. But I'm Dan Drillsman-Milgrom. I lead the financial hardship team here at the Greater London Authority. Essentially, we sort of provide kind of policy advice to the mayor and the organisation. We deliver a number of programmes, some of which I'll speak to, but also increasingly we sort of have a role in kind of coordinating activity across the organisation that is relevant to either support for low-income Londoners or navigating addressing the cost of living crisis as it's typically referred to. If you want to move on slide. I guess there's a wealth of statistics out there that kind of illustrate the extent of the cost of living crisis, which I'm sure everyone's familiar with by now. So I won't try to sort of go over them, other than to say that our polling still sort of reveals that the cost of living crisis is Londoners' number one concern. In terms of the numbers saying they're either sort of financially struggling or just about managing, and that also sort of has a particularly profound effect on certain groups. So it's still very much a sort of an issue of it's a priority issue for us. I should say though that the approach that we've taken very much builds on one that was developed, I guess, in sort of response to the COVID pandemic and London's recovery. And we worked with boroughs, the voluntary and community sector through the London Recovery Programme to develop something called the Robust Safety Net Recovery Mission. And that approach that we developed has very much informed our approach to the cost of living crisis. And this slide just sort of sets out, I suppose, some of the main challenges that we sort of saw as driving issues of poverty and financial hardship in London, and which we wanted to think about how our work could address those. So I think many of the sort of issues with the national benefit system are well understood, but I think the scale of the crises we've seen recently has really been of such that it can only meaningfully be addressed by central government, and we have seen some sort of really significant actions taken by central government, but also seen the limitations of some of those. We identified sort of low and uneven awareness of rights and entitlements as a sort of specific issue, and I think we've heard just on the conversation there. So some of the support is so niche and so technical that it can be incredibly hard to understand and to navigate one's way to being able to realise it. I think as a conservative estimate, we calculate that there is around £2 billion of unclaimed benefits in London each year. And so sort of thinking about ways that that can be addressed certainly forms part of our thinking. We've got a sort of unequal access to the formal elements of the local welfare system up there. And I think, just being really aware of the range of policies, practices and offers to residents that are available across London, and how different some of those can be, covering things like local welfare schemes, household support fund, council tax support, and council collections practices in some places as well. So there's a strand of work which I'll say a little bit about, which is probably a bit more under the has less public profile, but a lot of joint working with London councils and other boroughs around sort of what sort of lesson learning and can be taken there. I should also say that on top of all of this, actually, sorry, no, John, if you could go on to the next slide, that'd be helpful. So yeah, I guess what that sort of that work we've been doing previously had sort of helped us be in a position to frame an approach to the cost of living crisis. It was really one that based around helping Londoners to mitigate the worst effects of the cost of living crisis, understanding that we couldn't solve some of these issues, but helping to potentially mitigate the worst effects by sort of raising awareness of the support that's available, helping Londoners with potentially more acute or complex needs to access those forms of support, then also investing in the advice sector and the advice services that can really can best reach those who most need that support. The mayor's made a sort of public and clear commitment to tackling food insecurity, and recently we've seen some big policy announcements around things like free school meals, which it would be remiss not to mention as forming a major part of our approach to the cost of living crisis. And in addition, I think just given the salience of energy costs in driving people's living costs over the past year, there's been a sort of specific focus on helping people to lower those costs, potentially through home adaptations, but also access advice and information that can help with that as well. And whilst I think some of the we're anticipating energy prices plateauing and starting to fall, it's just worth just reminding ourselves that they are still going to be at a level significantly in advance of what long-term trends have been. So that absolutely remains an important part of our activity too. Sorry, Fiona, that it's hard to hear. I will try to speak as clearly as I can. If others are struggling, then do let me know. Yeah, John, if we could go to the next slide. So this slide just summarizes some of the programs and some of the activity underway. I mentioned the universal free school meals announcement recently. It's £130 million to extend free school meals to all primary school children in London. There's also funding for holiday meals as well, and we're working with the Felix Project and the Mayor's Fund for London so that they can sort of boost the supply of surplus food to a range of community partners across London during the holidays. We're also funding them to extend their operations to Saturdays, which is helping to boost the sort of total capacity of that network as well. I'll mention some of the work on advice capacity as well in a second, and things like the cost of living hub. The focus on food insecurity also covers things like the Food Routes programme, where we are trying to just invest in food partnerships and sort of support them to be more sustainable, but also to embed sort of cash first approaches in their operating models that can hopefully address some of the underlying drivers of food insecurity at the same time as some of the immediate presenting needs are dealt with as well. If you could move on the slide, John. Yeah, I mentioned the focus on advice. That comes in a number of ways, but I suppose one of the main interventions has been our work with the London Citizens Advice Network and the London Legal Support Trust Network across London. And in the current 12 months, we're providing £2.3 million worth of funding to increase capacity across both of those networks. I think it's supporting around 30 30 advice workers and I think about 12 or 13 specialist advice workers distributed across those two networks. That includes, for Hackney, that includes Citizens Advice East End, I believe. And we're around about the halfway stage in terms of the 12 months of provision, but we are starting to see some encouraging results in terms of the income gains for the Londoners supported. I suppose the reason I asked about access to training earlier is that the funding package also involved making Citizens Advice's advice first aid training package more widely available. And I think as we sort of come to the end of this 12 months and we start looking to re-granting, hopefully for another 12 months, I think one of the things we want to give some thought to is how we can sort of really sort of, spread and share some of the expertise and the resources that these networks have to as wide a group, well, as wide a range of groups and organizations as possible, because I think we're very conscious that there's a real diversity of organization that's supporting Londoners with some of these issues at the moment. I said I'd mentioned the Cost of Living Hub that was launched on the 1st of April last year. Really, it attempts to sort of just help Londoners, and I think those Londoners who are able to sort of self-serve to an extent, just to sort of find their way to the information that they need to access some of the forms of support that are out there. So that Cost of Living Hub has been promoted by a mayoral campaign over the past year, sort of adverts on the transport network, lots of social media activity, and it remains live and being promoted. We're undertaking a review of the hub at the moment and sort of user testing just to make sure that the information on the hub remains relevant, up to date and easily understandable. So again, any perspectives on the hub or how the information can be sort of used and shared and disseminated more widely would very much be welcome. Just go one more slide, John. This is the list of programs activity that was up there just a second ago. Just a couple of things to flag. I suppose in the advice space, we're working with an organisation called Policy and Practice and with a number of boroughs to promote awareness of pension credit as a particularly underclaimed benefit. And I think, there's not necessarily anything particularly groundbreaking in promoting pension credit, but it is a very sort of significantly underclaimed benefit. And what we've tried to do with that initiative is to sort of work with boroughs and I suppose the data that they have to be able to approach households directly, to identify those households that are likely to have eligibility for pension credit but not be claiming it, and to sort of target them with specific messaging and sort of offers of support for them to be able to make that claim. And again, we'll have results from that in the next couple of months, but I think it is looking quite encouraging. And I think we're keen in sort of running a follow-up campaign to sort of try and think about how we can work collaboratively with boroughs and collectively at scale for this to be something that sort of almost happens on a sort of regular basis, so that the impact of that can be described and communicated. In a similar vein, we've been doing some work with London councils and boroughs on evaluation frameworks for local welfare assistance. And we commissioned a piece of work which had some recommendations around sort of good practice on local welfare assistance. I don't necessarily think any of that will be sort of particularly new to boroughs who are operating these schemes, but I think hopefully where that work adds some value is it did come up with and create quite a specific evaluation framework that boroughs could use, i.e. a sort of a specific set of data points that any borough can capture. And if boroughs did so and were able to describe the impact of their investments in these services, that would help to paint that picture and sort of describe the impact at scale of investment in local welfare, which we think is really important. But it would also enable more in the way of sort of shared learning, comparisons of different approaches between boroughs. And I think sort of, from my time at London councils before I worked at the GLA, when we were often asked by government, what evidence do you have, hard evidence do you have of the impact of local welfare schemes, it was quite hard to sort of to pull that together in a way that was sort of digestible and sort of had impact for civil servants. So I think this is something that we would hope we could help achieve with that. So I think it's that's an area of work that continues with London councils, as I mentioned. Yeah, and then just final slide is really any sort of questions or reflections. I think given these points around the importance of information and advice, how we can be making sure that it gets to where it's most needed. How do we get community referrals right? I'm really conscious that different communities in London go to different places to get information, trusted information. So how can we sort of work with those organisations and networks that are capable of operating at scale, but in a way that sort of takes that into account? A couple more things up there, but yeah, I guess some of these points around how we can best use the data that we have available to sort of make that taking up of available support as automated or as as direct as possible. And I know Hackney's doing loads of really interesting work in this space, but also I just where we're getting successes, where we're achieving successes, and where there's an opportunity to do more, how can we best tell that story? So that was it for me.
Great, thanks, Dan. That was really interesting, and particularly the point around the evaluation and impact. Definitely something we're thinking about at the moment at Hackney as well. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Maybe on the last slides there, for Dan.
So we've also Zoe's got to leave in 5 minutes. So if Zoe doesn't mind just giving a very quick update on Money Hub. I know that we talked about coming back for a more substantive item, but then if Dan is able to stick around, there's a bit of time for you to think about if there are any questions in relation to the GLA presentation. And
that's fine. I'll put my email address in the chat as well if anyone has anything they want to sort of follow up with directly. That's fine.
Thanks, Dan.
Great, thanks so much.
Zoe, did you want to come in quickly?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So for those I don't know, I lead the team who runs the Hackney Money Hub. So that's a new service that we launched in November last year, and really exactly following on from Dan's presentation. Lots of things that that he's talked about are the things that have been guiding how we've designed the service. If you are supporting clients applying for discretionary housing payments, for council tax discretionary hardship fund, for the, forgive all the long names here, the Hackney Discretionary Crisis Support Scheme, Household Support Fund, all these different local welfare assistance pots, you now just apply to with one form. That's for things like furnishing unfurnished TA or unfurnished social properties. Food and fuel vouchers, though unfortunately these are just on a one per household basis, or a bit of help, and I stress a very small amount of help because there's a huge demand on that budget. But for council tax arrears, everything comes through Money Hub. And the idea, again, as Dan was saying, is that if you're applying for those funds at the same time as looking at applications to those funds, our officers will also do income maximisation checks to make sure that the clients are receiving all of the benefits they're entitled to. Completely echo Dan, there is a lot of underclaiming in Hackney. So we've already since November found about £640,000 of additional income for our clients. There's a lot more, particularly around disability benefits. What can I say? So there's lots of stuff on the website about finding the form and how to apply. as you can imagine from how I've described it, the demand has been absolutely enormous. We think we've had about 2% of the borough has applied already for help. The wait times at the moment really depends on the type of case. We are having to do a lot of triage. If it is not priority, and priority means already has written eviction notice, or needs home goods and has a range of high health and care needs that mean there's a really big danger to not having the goods in the home. If the clients who are in those cases, we're trying to turn around within a week, but even that is really difficult because about 60% of our applicants are already in rent arrears. If it's not the situation, and I really appreciate that a lot of people are in dire situations, and it feels like it should be quicker, but I think we're on still about a 4 to 5 week turnaround time for those lower priority cases. Things that help speed it up is as much information as possible in the application. If there is a concern about eviction, specifics on like if written notice is being received and if there's an eviction date, the date really helps us to do things in the right order. But yeah, there is just a phenomenal amount of demand at the moment. We're still getting around 200 applications a week. Yeah, we're trying to do the best we can. Families with children, so about 50% of our applicants are families with children. We try to prioritize those with disability and long-term health conditions within that. If there are any cases that anyone's got where they've been waiting a long time and they feel like there is a really high priority need that we haven't got to, please do drop me an email and I will have a look and see, because things are definitely, to be honest, falling through the gaps with the level of demand that we're seeing. Charles?
Hi Zoe, just a quick question. I've been speaking to a lot of housing colleagues this week, and they've been talking about where to find support for residents who need furniture moving into a property. I imagine quite a lot of these come across to Money Hub and not everyone will be eligible. I wonder if anyone knew of any alternative services or cheap furniture we could direct people to stop them coming your way, if there are other services we can direct them to.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's so our policy, the Hackney Discretionary Crisis Support Scheme exists primarily to help people furnish unfurnished homes, to help people with furnishing needs. The scale of demand is so large for that at the moment that we've had to focus solely on people who we are moving into an unfurnished tenancy. So that could be TA, it could be a social tenancy, it could be a PRS property that we've helped people move into. Unfortunately, we can only do maximum 3 items per household. So even if you do get through to Money Hub and we get through to you and that, we are asking people to make really very difficult decisions between, is a fridge or a cooker more important, is a bed or a fridge more important. So there's a couple of different options. I can share them. Fair for You, and Chris from Fair for You came to one of these sessions a few months ago, are a very good low cost, low interest non-profit provider of furnishings where people can buy things on very low interest rates. So for people who really want to select a specific type of item, I really recommend Fair for You. They're a very good organisation. You do have to have some level, like the people with the worst credit ratings will struggle to get that. Free Cycle is really valuable. There is a really busy Free Cycle sites in Hackney and surrounding areas. Obviously, a lot of people struggle with the digital access to get on there or the actual ability to go and collect goods. We did have some conversations with some BCS partners about whether they might, people like Good Gym and others, about whether they might like to make volunteers available to help people with Free Cycle. So we haven't really looked more at that yet, but that's interesting. Facebook Marketplace, as well as Free Cycle. Then there's British Heart Foundation furniture stores. So there's a big one in Seven Sisters Road and a big one in Leytonstone. Again, have really good And they also, BHF also have an eBay store. So people who aren't very confident with online shopping for furniture, sometimes we found that they are a bit more confident when the BHF branding is around it, because there's a bit of protection that it's not completely mad. So obviously those options won't work for everyone, but they're a bit of help.
Great, thanks.
Grow Baby and also the E5 Baby Bank are really, really brilliant. And they do, as well as things like clothes, books, they also do cots, prams, high chairs, things like that. So families with really young kids, they can be really helpful. We've got some set text, Charlie, that I can send you afterwards that we share with clients.
Aina, did you want to come in? I don't know if you need to go, Zoe, or not, but Aina, did you want to come in? Is it Aina or Aina? You got your hand up. I'm not sure if you can hear me or not.
Wondering whether Ina's struggling to find the mute
Can
button.
you hear me?
There you go. Yeah, we can got you.
Okay, all right. Sorry about that. I forgot to hit the mute button. It's with regards furniture. I just had something with regards furniture. We have free furniture to give away. We don't have a lot, but we store a really small, section of furniture. And if anybody wants things like dining table, dining chairs, like a 2-seater chair, a single bed, we have things like that: duvet, pillows, baby's pram, baby cot, baby rockers, toys, books. We have all that to give away for free. So just to let you know that we have it, and feel free to call us or come round or send the person to us, whoever needs it. Yeah, and would arrange for it to be delivered if our delivery man is available. Otherwise, they would have to come pick it up.
And you're with you're Idias, aren't you?
Yes, that's right. Idias. Sorry, I didn't do that introduction. Idias Community Kitchen.
Great stuff. Yeah, doing
That's great to
amazing
know.
work.
I'll follow up with you separately. I don't want to overwhelm your services, but I'll work
All
out
right.
a way to.
No worries.
Thank you
No
so
worries.
much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Great, thank you. Anyone else got any other questions for Zoe? But I think she may need to go. Or questions for Dan from the previous presentation as well. If not, I'm going to hand back to Jenny to sort of open up the floor for other insights and any concerns or questions. I'm assuming that's a legacy hand.
Well, I'm wondering whether I could, whether Ina would mind me putting her on the spot to remind us again about the amazing work that Idia's Community Kitchen do, because I'm always inspired to hear about the volunteers, about how hard your volunteers are working and the support that you're able to provide. Ina, I don't know if you'd mind me asking you to come in and tell us a bit about the work, because I think it's always so inspiring to hear about and to think about how we can connect in and support you better. And is that all right?
Yeah, sure. Anytime. So can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Thank you so much for acknowledging what we do. And, I'm really very grateful, that I have the opportunity to do this. And I give all thanks to Almighty God, first of all. We have amazing volunteers here. We're open Monday, Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Wednesday and Thursday, we used to collect our donations and sort out the donations that come in. Though on a Thursday, sometimes we leave the door open so people can come. Sorry, I'm just looking around because I got a few people helping themselves to tea, coffee, and croissants. We open the doors so people can come in for tea, coffee, and croissants if we have any. And we also take snacks to the school next door, which is Randall Kramer. Recently, we have picked on something else because after school hours, we noticed that a lot of children are hanging around the area. We have 2 secondary schools not too far from us. So we are planning some kind of project for the children. after school. We're still working on that, and hopefully by the end of July, that will be up and running. We serve food outside Dalston, Kingsland, Wrigley Road Market on a Sunday. We do that from 2 p.m. to 3:30, and we have a service here 10 in the morning up until 1 p.m. in the afternoon. And we also take food to the hostels around. We have 3 hostels not too far from us. We take food to the residents there, and people can come in anytime to eat, and for takeaway, tea, coffee is available. There's a warm space for people to just sit and chat. Intention also is to set up a little space where they can watch TV. We just need to get permission from Hackney Council so we can get Sky or Virgin connected here. Also, we are trying to get permission from Hackney Council to have some mentoring program for the children and elderly in our community.
Oh no, now we've lost you, Ina. I could see everyone was quite captivated hearing about the work that IDEAs are doing. It's phenomenal what they were able to achieve with
Community. They have also asked for one day of the week for them to just come and yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
We lost a bit of,
so that's why I'm looking around.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. We lost a bit of that there. Your connection disappeared, and you were talking about mentoring for young people, and then you were talking about work with elderly residents. But it sounds like you're doing so much.
Yes, the mentoring program is just because I was talking to 2 of the kids from the school, Haggerston Secondary School, and it's really sad to know that there are lots of kids that haven't got, people to look up to, role model. This one of them, I would not mention the name, but he opened up and said to me, his dad is in prison, his mom is at home, she's at home, but she suffers from depression because she's been on drugs and alcohol, and taking into account that the father's not there, there's no one to help out. So he has to look after 2 other younger ones, pick them from take them to school in the morning and get them after school. So he is not acting that part of a parent, and that's the reason why I thought, okay, maybe we can put this, try and put this into place for the children in our neighborhood here, mentoring, and then they have a role model they can look up to. They have somebody that they can call to encourage them, to motivate them, and to help them, do better at what they love to do. Because this young boy said to me that, after secondary school, he's just going to go try get a job. He's not looking at going to university or furthering which is education. And his friend that was with him on that day said he is a very intelligent boy, and it is sad, to hear him say this, that's what he's been saying to them at school, and they have been trying to encourage him to just go further. But taking into account that he hasn't got any older person to look up to, and he's got his 2 younger ones to look after, that's the reason why he said the option would be, sorry, sir, we're not really open today, but you can help yourself to anything over there. And I'm in a meeting right now. Sir, please. You can help yourself to anything on the table there. Yes, sir, please. Yeah, thank you. Yes. Sorry about that. So that's the reason why, my dear. Sorry. That's why sometimes, I just I listen, but I guess you understand where I'm coming from.
Absolutely, the multitasking is live and direct for us here. You're still receiving people. It's really hard, but really important to hear about stories of those that you're working with to support them. And I think I know that IDEAS is receiving a small amount of funding through our community infrastructure grant, new sort of funding stream, which is really a way of, we heard last time from Joycelyn from Shepherdfold, who was also sharing some of the experiences, similar experiences in terms of impacts on young people and what that's, the cost of living impacts on young people and what that means for families and for risks there as well. And I think I know that there are lots of really great mentoring programs across Hackney, and we'd love to sort of support you to develop some of those collaborative partnerships if if there are things that we can pull together. And I know that you have, as your relational lead, you have Godfred in adult social care as well, who's matched with your organisation, who's been out to meet with you a few times. So I'm hoping, yeah, how's that working out, the connection with the relational lead with Godfred? Is that relationship, or how's that working?
It's not 100% because I just expect more, but I think I'm trying to like one of the volunteers is like, I know everybody cannot be like you. I'm just passionate about what I do, and I like to just get things done if it can be done. If it's doable, why not do it? Why do we have to waste time or beat about the bush? Let's just do it. But he's doing his very best. Yeah.
So what would you say are the main things that you need support with as an organisation? Keep doing what you're doing, from those on the call, from Hackney Council, from the GLA, from all of us. What do you need to keep doing what you're doing?
From all of you, you're doing very well. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate this platform because we can all share, learn from one another. But from Hackney Council, not really. They've increased our rent recently by $2.5 grand. And the space, the youth space they have here, they're not using it, as far as I know. Once in a while, they might hire it out for an odd party or the other. And we have asked for it. I don't see why we cannot use it. If they're going to increase our rent, then why not allow us to use that space? We've got children who are just loitering around after school. They can come in there. We have people, professionals who are willing to come help these children, teach them some sort of craft, who are willing to. I have a basketball coach who's willing to, take them out to play basketball. We have another lecturer from one of the universities, East London, who's ready to come and talk to them, about why it's important to be in school, stay focused and do something, work on a career. We also have an artist who's willing to come all the way from Cambridge, to teach them.
So space is the really big issue. And
we also have another lady who is what is she now? Sorry, she is like, what do they call, isn't it? But I know if I go in there, then there's going to be a big problem, So why can't we use it, And then we need space. They have the disabled toilet where we can put a shower for the homeless guys, because we have a good number of homeless people that come here. They don't like to feel dirty. They don't like to feel dirty. They don't want to stink, but they got nowhere to shower. We want to put a shower in there, but they're saying, oh, we'll think about it. So why can't we do that? You get me? So that's number one, is the space. And then we've got the hall upstairs. In the winter months, why can't we use it as a night shelter? We've got qualified people. They have run 9 shelters before with different churches, They have security men that work with them. Why can't we use it as a night shelter? Monday through Friday, they come in at 7 o'clock, leave 7 o'clock in the morning. We clean the place down, and it's ready for them to hire out again for their parties of.
Oh no. I'll just wait for Ina to come back. But I guess this perfectly illustrates the real challenge of there's such creativity, innovation, determination, and
the weekend, and they can use it in the day anytime before 7. Why can't we use that?
Yeah, I really hear your frustrations, Ina, and I think I was just saying that this really illustrates how dynamically those of you that are working in the community to support residents are working, and how creatively and it's extraordinary what you've been able to do so far. And it must be incredibly frustrating when there's all these barriers to what feels like a no-brainer. So I really hear your frustrations, and I know that you're not the only one experiencing those kind of frustrations. And it's useful to have this captured, to have your reflections captured on this recording, so that we can share it and ask some of those questions, and know that there's lots of thinking about the way that we need to work differently with communities and with community organisations such as yourselves that are at the, that are doing such critical work. So I will share this recording and see if we can get an understanding of what some of those barriers are and what can be done about it, because change is not easy, and I recognise that a lot of our, similar to how the Money Hub have recognised that the forms were not working for people, for residents, there are lots of council processes that don't work for community organisations, and we need to be able to support you to be able to do that critical work you do, because it's as you can hear, it's life-saving work, isn't it, that you're doing, and there's so much potential to do more. So we're really grateful that you're working with us as one of our community infrastructure organisations, so we can learn with you and try new things together, because and if we can put you, I know that Charlie and Nicola will be keen to put you in touch with our system conveners, will be keen to put you in touch with other organisations doing mentoring to see whether we can support some kind of partnership development, because that sounds like a good one to be thinking about before the summer break as well, for sure. Thank you so much, Aina, and for letting me put you on the spot. I'll let you off the hook.
No worries, anytime. It's what we do, so it just comes naturally.
Yeah,
it's what we do, so it's just yeah. Yes.
Did anyone before
Thank
we
you,
move
ma'am.
on, did anybody have any questions hearing from Aina about the work of Idia's Community Kitchen in Hackney? Did anybody have any questions, any burning questions or reflections they wanted to share? Oh, thanks, Fiona. Okay, no problem at all. I wondered whether I could take this opportunity, and I will also open up the floor for any burning questions, reflections, insight that those of you on the call want to share, or have support to problem solve together on this call. But as we mentioned the last time we met 2 weeks ago, we're really trying to get an understanding of the impact of these sessions in terms of those that attend, both those that attend live and those who watch the recordings back. And so we've pulled together a questionnaire. It is a bit long, so don't feel like you have to fill in all of the sections, but there are sections that are identified that we would really love for you to fill out, so that we can continue to make sure that these sessions bring you what you need most, and how, the support and the forum that you want it to be and that you need it to be. So we'd really appreciate you completing the questionnaire. We will send it out with the newsletter. I don't think we've put a deadline on it, so it will remain open and we'll keep receiving responses to it. I'm going to put the link there, and I'm wondering whether somebody who is external to the council could try it out and make sure that it works for you. Thanks so much, Dan, for joining us, and welcome back anytime. Thank you. And so the questionnaire is in the chat, and I wonder that somebody from external to the council wouldn't mind clicking the link and seeing whether it opens up and whether it works for you. I will just run through it. So this is what the questionnaire should look like, and so we're just asking you what's your organisation, which team or service, your job title, the residents that you work with, how you support residents, how you found out about the sessions, how many times you've attended, whether you've accessed the recording, what you expected to get out of the sessions and what you got out of the sessions, and what's been most helpful, and also whether you've shared information about the newsletter, either with people you're working with or with residents, and if there's anything you don't like about these sessions, and anyone you would particularly like to hear from in these sessions, or whether you would be willing to present at any of these sessions. I think it's really helpful. Oh, thank you so much, Joe, for testing that. But yeah, we'd really appreciate you taking some time to fill this out for us, because it really will help us to shape the future sessions, but also feed into other forums and make them as helpful as possible based on what you tell us you need and what is important to you in this work. Because I think we gathered some reflections that were quite a surprise the last time we met. I think there was a council service who reflected that being in these sessions and hearing our community partners talking about what's going on for residents, like what Ina's just shared, and that Joe shared earlier is really helping them to change the way that they write letters to residents and in their approaches. So that was quite a surprise impact from the sessions that we were really pleased to hear about, because it demonstrates that this is not just about sharing information. This is about enabling collaboration, but also learning together about the ways of working that are really impactful for the residents we're working with, given the scale of the challenge. And obviously, you know, there is no one service that's going to be able to meet all the needs that residents that we're working with a lot of the time need. So the importance of the collaboration and the partnership, and hearing about from Ina about all the different needs and issues that people are coming with and that they're trying to support. You know, we're really committed through this work to doing what we can in our role as an enabler to unlock resources, to rethink the way that we work, to make sure that we are really doing the work that it takes, that helps us to meet people where they're at in the ways that they need and through the trusted relationships they have. So thank you so much for those of you who are able to take the time to fill out that questionnaire. We'll send it out with the newsletter. You'll probably get some email prompts from us asking you to do that. It will be really helpful. We have a scrutiny meeting on poverty reduction in October, which is a public meeting, and we'd love to be able to share some of the feedback from the sessions at that. And if you've got ideas about other things you think we should be doing and need to prioritise, please do add those in. So is there any sort of last minute questions that anyone has for the group, or updates that anyone wants to share with the group? You are very welcome to send any slides or updates about service information to John to include in the newsletter as well, if you'd rather not speak to them now. But if there is anything, please do unmute or shout out or drop in the chat and I can read out. And if not, I will just give you a couple more minutes, but I'll give you a few minutes back. Thank you all so much for all the amazing work you do for Hackney residents and for taking all this time with us on a Thursday afternoon. We really appreciate it, and we'll look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. Thank you all. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Thanks again to all of our speakers as well. Thank you.